Our path in health and fitness has not been without mistakes. In today's episode, we're going to help you shortcut your path to your goals by talking about the 5 things we would do today if we were starting all over. Stay tuned.
Here we go.
All right, guys, welcome to the Digital Barbell Podcast. Thanks so much for being here. If you're new to our podcast, welcome. I'll explain the setting here in just a second, but if you've been around for a long time, we appreciate your support. Thanks so much for being here. Also, apologies if there's a little bit of background noise in this episode. One of our dogs is a chronic snorer. She got some sleep apnea, and she's about 1 foot off camera over there. So if you're just listening to this and you hear like a this like undulating, peaceful snoring sound, that's what's going on. If you're new to our YouTube channel and you're seeing what's going on here, what you're looking at is the back of our Airstream. As of last week, we're living, working, traveling full-time in our Airstream since Digital Barbell is an online company. So that's what's up with that.
This is our office. This is our dining room. And this is our podcast studio.
In a pinch, it can become a bed or a couch.
Yeah, in a pinch, it can become a bed.
And Blakely thought of this great idea in last week's episode, spur of the moment, that at the end of each video episode, we're going to open the curtain. A lot of explaining. Open the curtain and reveal where we are this week, because we'll probably be in a different place most weeks, so we shall see. Anything else you wanted to talk about before we get into it?
Covered it. Here's the rules of the podcast.
There's the rules. Welcome, and here are the rules. All right, so we're going to talk about these 5 things that we would do differently.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people would just assume, like, we've always been this way. Mm-hmm. We've always been in shape, probably been coaching people since the moment we popped out of the womb. Everything's easy, but no, we've made a lot of mistakes. So we sat down and thought, like, if we had the opportunity to start over, how could we shortcut our path to where we are now? And then you can use that advice to shortcut your own goals. So let's get into it.
And kind of no matter where you're starting, if you're really no matter like what age you are, whenever you're starting.
That's really true.
This is good advice. Or if you're, like just getting out of college or something and you're trying to start your journey, or if you're, you've had a full life and you're really ready to start your fitness journey today.
All right. I guess like I should caveat this with saying, like, I didn't get into anything fitness related till I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
I'm 46 right now. So I look at people who started working out when they were 16 and 17, 18 years old, and I'm like super jealous, but I still think you can get in great shape if you are starting in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, if you like can know what to focus on and what to ignore.
Yep. All right. So the first thing that we would do differently if we were starting over today is we would start with strength.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
I think there's like a little play on words here. Start with strength, because there's this whole strength program which we use called Starting Strength. But what I'm talking about with this is starting my fitness journey with a focus on
we don't
getting
use that
stronger.
Program. That's
Right.
what we started. Yeah.
Right. But like if most people could just like get over the fact that when you start, you don't have to do a whole bunch of things. But if you start with strength training, you'll probably fall in love with it, and you'll start to build up the results that you really want to see in the long term anyway. Because like back when you were going to group classes at 24-Hour Fitness, I just did cardio, like get on the elliptical machine, get on the treadmill. I absolutely hated it. I didn't enjoy any of it, and it was much easier for me to just skip going to the gym because I knew what I was about to go do I wasn't going to enjoy. So
a lot of times you kind of ended up walking and watching the news. I remember, like you just kind of like you were there and you just like walked for an hour.
There was
on
no
the treadmill.
intent.
There was no intensity or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, just I didn't know anything about strength training at the time. The side of the gym with the machines and the free weights completely intimidated me. I wouldn't have known what to do even if I did go over there. And then like you got me into the high intensity boot camp style workouts, and that wasn't strength training. And while I did get fitter during that time, like I never started to see any of the results that I wanted to see, even though I started feeling a little bit better and losing a little bit of weight. And then in 2009 we started CrossFit, and I would say our like capacity got a lot better. We got a lot fitter during that time, but because of the nature and the more randomness of CrossFit, I didn't get significantly stronger during
Especially
that time.
during those early days of CrossFit.
Yeah, for sure. It was a grab bag of what you're going to do that day. Yeah. And then like finding strength training was a big turning point in my life, but there's things that I would do differently now. So I did the starting strength program, the novice linear progression, where you do squats twice per week, you deadlift and you press and you bench press once per week, and you're adding weight really, really aggressively during that beginning time, and you're encouraged to try to gain as much body weight as you can during that time because mass moves mass, and as you get heavier, you can lift heavier weight and get stronger. But I think there was a lot of downsides to that, despite the fact that I did get stronger. I think I opened myself up for overuse injury during that time because the strength of my muscles was outpacing how quickly my connective tissue could get stronger. So I ended up with tendonitis and a lot of joints in my upper body. And I think some of the struggles that I still have with that today are because of the time that I outpaced the strength of my tendons way back then. So I would do that differently now. I wouldn't just like be so aggressive and thinking I had to get as strong as possible in the first 3 months. Right now I would do each of the main lifts, squat, press, deadlift, and bench press. Did I say them all? Yeah. I would do them once per week with the intent of using a linear progression where you're adding weight each time you do it, but looking at the bigger picture, knowing that this is now like a lifelong journey of getting stronger. And I don't care if I have to get as strong as possible, as soon as possible right now. And starting with strength, like encourage you because you see the progress happening from week to week, both in the weight that you're lifting and the changes in your physique and your confidence and everything, but it starts to get you hooked on the process.
Yeah.
And if I had started with that back when the days when I was getting on the elliptical machine, there's no telling like where I'd be at right now, because I would have fallen in love with it. I would have had so much more consistency because I was enjoying what I was doing.
So you would start with strength, but you wouldn't start with starting strength.
Right, exactly.
It was kind of the thing. Yeah. So your kind of background was like cardio, boot camps, CrossFit, and then you found strength training through starting strength, the starting strength seminar we went to.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't necessarily like go back and be like, I need to do this. I need to gain as much weight as I possibly can, and you know, only focus on these lifts. Because it would take you an hour and a half. Yeah. Me and my friends were working out in the garage. You would just basically do your squats and, your presses. And it was, honestly, it didn't seem fun.
And during that time, like I became best friends with ibuprofen and an ice pack. I would finish each workout and I would put an ice pack on my back because every workout, because the weight got so heavy so quickly, was just straining my back, like, eventually bulged a couple discs in my back and tore my glute. Not blaming the program for that, but I would take a much more conservative approach to it now.
And there's a point in those that they start fun. You're like, okay, this is all I'm doing. And then they get insanely difficult. And you don't want to go to the next day. And the next day in the gym, you don't want to go because you're just like faced with 5 more pounds on the bar.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll say, like, we're talking about doing these barbell lifts. I said squat, bench, press, and deadlift, but we have so many clients that are new to weightlifting or structured training, and they start doing this exact thing I'm talking about, but with dumbbells at home or at a gym or using a machine. Doesn't matter where you're at right now with your strength. Focusing on strength training is completely scalable to wherever you're starting from right now.
Yeah.
And you can really build up quickly if you're following a well-designed program.
Yeah, my introduction to strength training, early on was with our friend Chris, and it was kind of an unstructured introduction to strength training, but it was there. But it was interesting because I grew up in organized sports, and I did practice and endurance training and games, or meets or whatever sport I was doing, but there was never a true strength component. I do remember in high school, like being once a week being pushed into the weight room, and it was just like all of the team was in there and no coaches or anything.
Guidance.
And we were just like, I did the leg press machine all the time. And that's all we really were just kind of in there talking. Yeah. And so it was like talking in some leg press. Like there was no real introduction to strength training. I think until even through like going through the boot camps, or even through going through like starting CrossFit in Tennessee, even until I got to like Rice and I started like working out with an organized group, did we start to do like the Windler progression And honestly, the training back then was similar to what we do now for digital barbell, where we did a strength component where we either used the starting strength progression or we did like the Wendler 5-3-1 progression, and then we went in and did like a Metcon, where there was never like a bodybuilding component, but those are the kind of the two pieces we did every day we went to the gym. And so, yeah, I would again, like you said, start, hopefully start back with getting strength, because strength takes so long to build.
Right.
You can build your capacity way more quickly than you can build your strength. You can build your strength for a lifetime.
That's a great point.
And the earlier that you can start building your strength, the better off.
And strength lasts a long time too.
Yeah. Okay. The second thing we would do is become a bodybuilder. And I think I was just going through like my quick story of that, and that was the missing piece until, we started digital barbell. Honestly, like I was back in, what years were that? Like 2012, doing a strength component and a CrossFit component, but I was subject to a lot of injuries back then too. There wasn't a bodybuilding component to my training.
Yeah.
So I wasn't seeing like significant changes in my body composition, and I was also getting like injuries because I was heavy into the CrossFit Metcons, and I was not having the bodybuilding really does help you kind of like armor your body by strengthening some, other parts other than just like
the joints, the connective tissue.
Something that you're not just doing the main lifts.
So maybe you're listening to this and you're like, okay, number one, I don't want to become a bodybuilder. And if I'm honest with myself, I don't even know what you're talking about becoming a bodybuilder. We're not talking about deciding you're going to get as big or as muscular or as lean as possible. Professional bodybuilders, they all have a decent amount of muscle, but it's really just a dieting competition to see how much body fat you can lose, to see all the definition and all the veins and put a fake tan on and all that kind of stuff. What we're talking about is, if we could go back, we would dedicate a huge chunk of our training time in the gym and our resources towards building muscle. That's really what we're talking about with bodybuilding.
Like doing the rows, doing the tricep exercises, doing the curls, all of those. Right. All of those accessory things that if you work with us that you do regularly, but like it's been crazy to start with people, especially like people who've come from a CrossFit background or people who are very strong when they start with us. And they have very high numbers in their press and their bench and their squat and their deadlift, and then they have very low numbers in their dumbbell row,
the curls,
and their curl, and their tricep extensions. Because these are the pieces that you're not getting if you're just doing strength and if you're just doing like a Metcon.
So the main reason that I would, if I could go back and start this part over and really dedicate time to the bodybuilding, is for all the benefits you said about the joint health, the connective tissue strength, but let's be honest, like one of the main reasons people work out is because they want to look like it. And doing this aesthetics oriented, biased bodybuilding training is the thing that's going to make your muscles grow and make you look like you work out. Doing the heavy compound lifts, like a power lifter or squats and bench and all that kind of stuff, that has an effect on your central nervous system, brings up your overall body strength. But doing these single joint isolation exercises or compound exercises, like a dumbbell press or whatever, these are the things that cause hypertrophy, the growth of the muscle. That is what you see when you're, flexing in the mirror and you see your tricep popping out. So, even after doing CrossFit for probably 5 years, I was skinny fat because I was using lighter weights, doing more reps, building up the endurance of the muscles, but never really seeing any growth to the muscle. So if I could go back, that would be a huge thing. And like, this was actually really, really poo-pooed on back in the old days of CrossFit when we started.
I was going to say, and now it's become like way more like mainstream, something that you will see in a CrossFit gym or in a online CrossFit type of, training program. You will see this component in there. And I think it's cool but it was very, even in the starting strength world, it was very like, do not do curls, the only other thing you could do was like a chin up.
And God forbid in a CrossFit gym there was a mirror where you could watch yourself do something also. So what does it mean to do this bodybuilding? What we look at it as is to do somewhere between 10 and 20 what we call hard sets of these kinds of exercises per week, per muscle group on your body. So a hard set is one where you're using a weight that is really, really challenging when you get to the end of the set. And what we're aiming for on these type of exercises is somewhere between like 8 and 15 reps. So remember, as we've said before, all weightlifting is supposed to be hard. So we want to choose weights that get hard in that rep range of 8 to 15 reps.
Yeah.
If you've been used to doing, group classes or body pump or YouTube videos where you're doing sets of 30 with a lightweight, that's not the kind of weightlifting that's going to make you look like you work out or become a bodybuilder like we're talking about here. We've got to up the weights a little bit and then make the overall goal with this kind of training to add weight and add reps over time, taking advantage of progressive overload. This one makes me think about our resource that we put together, the 10 reasons that you're working out but you don't look like it, because this really gets neglected in people who are working out a lot, and after years they still look the same. So if you identify with that, I'll put a link to where you can grab that free resource in the show notes for this episode. We'll email you every day for 10 days explaining how to fix all these problems.
Yeah. All right, the third thing we would do differently is understand intensity. You actually wrote this one. I feel like I had a good understanding of intensity from the beginning, just because based on the sports that I did when I was growing up, and that early introduction to like CrossFit. And I think that is why I was like attracted to CrossFit, is because I already kind of understood like what it was like to push intensity from soccer and swimming and even like the water skiing sports.
Yeah.
It's a pretty like intense bout when you're doing it and then, you stop. So I think that is really what drew me to CrossFit. And that is really like the biggest piece I think that we got from ever training with CrossFit style conditioning, is learning how to push yourself, learning how to like push yourself into that discomfort place and know that you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And you can carry this over to like your strength training and your bodybuilding exercises as well.
Yeah. Because really the change that most of us want to see with our training comes from that level of challenge that's really just outside of our comfort zone. And one thing that's changed in our training over the last 10 years is we don't push that same intensity with the CrossFit style workouts or the conditioning as many times per week. It's harder to recover from and just not necessary for our overall fitness goals.
But we do push intensity every time that we train.
Exactly.
In all the different components of our training, whether it's the main lift that we're doing, the squats or deadlifts, or it's the curls and the tricep extensions and the rows.
Yeah.
All the way down to like if we're doing like a finisher, and it's even just like some, for 400 meter, circuits or something like that.
I mean, the bottom line is like doing workouts doesn't do anything for you. I mean, yes, something is better than nothing, but I think everybody listening to this like really values their time. They don't have extra time to spend on workouts that aren't really effective.
Yeah.
So if you're just going through the motions and quote doing your workout, not only could you shortcut your path to results, but you're going to feel better if you learn how to push intensity. And that's back to talk about a hard set. Are we really getting close to failure when we're lifting these weights?
Yeah.
That's the kind of intensity that we learned from pushing conditioning and CrossFit that we bring to our lifting now.
And that truly is the beauty of putting yourself in these group kind of classes. Like really, you're not like on your own. It's hard to do on your own. If you've never done it before, it's going to be hard to do because you're not going to want to push yourself into that space. But if you're in a group of people and you see other people doing this, and if you walk into the walls of a CrossFit gym or something, you're going to be like surrounded by people some people have been there doing this for 10 years and some people have been doing this for 2 days. And so you're going to see the people and you're going to like, oh wow, look at how they're pushing, and you're going to learn how to do it, and you're going to realize that it's okay and you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
But
and then like in an online situation, since we coach our clients after the fact online, this is one of the main reasons that we encourage our clients to send us form check videos, because we can judge their intensity and tell them if they're working hard enough, reassure them like you nailed it on that one. That was great. The speed of that last couple reps was perfect. Or like, I think you probably could have done 5 more reps before you got to the place where you're pushing the kind of intensity that
and you're
we
talking
want.
About things like we're like looking at a video of like someone doing a dumbbell row or something like that, and this is where we can like see the type of intensity that they're pushing, and as they get to those last like 2 to 3 reps.
Are we getting the most out of this?
Right. Yeah, or it's just like it like rep 1 looked just like rep 15. We can tell like, okay, we need to add some weight, we need to add some intensity to this. So it is truly like the benefit of doing like an online coaching platform if you're working out alone, to get a coach to get some eyes on you and see what's going on. All right.
This is a big one.
The fourth one, learn the big dogs of nutrition: quality, control, and consistency.
Man, I think our nutrition, like looking back,
It's been funny.
objectively, like it used to be a wreck, honestly.
But we were trying, but we didn't learn the big dogs.
We knew nothing about that. Okay, I mean, back in our, by the way, we just celebrated our 23rd wedding anniversary a couple days ago. And I think back to those days in our first apartment, and I don't even really remember going to the grocery store.
I don't remember what we ate.
I can remember what we ate. I mean, we've talked about this before on here, but frozen pizza was a staple. Pastaroni was a staple. Was a staple. Just making noodles coated in butter was a staple. I don't really
noodles in a roll.
Some noodles and some garlic bread. I don't really have any remembrance of like cooking any meat.
I don't either.
Honestly,
I don't either.
But these are back in the days where like we truly weren't prioritizing our health at all. Like,
well, yeah,
you were working out, at Rice, like back before you learned about CrossFit and stuff. But
yeah.
But anyway, and then even once we started realizing like, okay, nutrition is an important thing. The owner of our CrossFit gym took us to the grocery store, walked us around, taught us how to shop.
That was really cool, yeah.
It was really cool, but like looking back, like we were still lost.
Oh yeah,
as to what we were supposed to be doing.
We were doing
It was like
zone,
eat clean,
the zone diet back
right.
then, and really it was kind of like if it fits your macros back then. It's like you could eat anything as long as it fits your macros.
Well, and there were certain rules around it too, like don't eat a banana because it's loaded with sugar. Like you just need to eat tons of avocado for the omegas, and there was a lot of misinformation and just confusion. I had no idea what I was doing, like with the zone diet. So yeah, like fast forward to like things really started to change once we understood the basics. When I say quantity, what I mean is like the fact that how much food you eat in calories is what controls your body weight. There was no discussion of calories anywhere until we started to educate ourselves on nutrition. Control means getting away from eating at so many dang restaurants, man. Like I shudder to think of how much money we used to spend on restaurants too, but basically,
I think that's why we don't remember like cooking, or we did just a ton of pickup food at a restaurant and
Outback Steakhouse.
We were here in the city where we actually met and first we got married and all that stuff, and we went on our anniversary. We're like, let's go back to one of these restaurants, and we went down, and I was just like, look at all the restaurants, and we used to like pick up food from all of these places, and we talk a lot on those podcasts about like, don't pick up restaurant food and sit in front of your TV and eat it. If you're going to go to the restaurant and eat that food, eat it there and have the experience. But man, back in the day, we were picking up a lot of to-go food.
Yeah. So we took control of quantity, took control of control, meaning like started making more of our own food. And I think people really struggle with this because if you're trying to get fit, get in shape, lose fat, whatever, and you're handing over control of your nutrition to a restaurant or a food prep service or whatever, or a box, it's like handing over your debit card to your neighbor, even when you're trying to stick to a budget yourself. Like you don't have control. It doesn't mean you have to become like a professional chef or go to the Google and find a bazillion healthy recipes. It's about learning how to like make simple things that are a good balance of protein, carbs, and fat that you like to eat, and getting into a routine, eating those kinds of foods most of the time, which is a good transition into consistency.
Yeah.
I mean, I was the challenge kind of guy. Like I did Whole30, I did paleo challenges, all those things. None of them were like something I ever had any intent to stick with consistently. But finding a balance of like the foods that we like to eat that line up with our goals makes consistency easy without it being like this. I'm going to go on this 75 hard diet for these 75 days and I have no idea what I'm going to do afterwards. And that's really our goal with any of our nutrition coaching clients, is to help them find the right quantity, learn how to take control of their nutrition within the constraints of their lifestyle, family responsibilities, all that kind of stuff, and then build the habits that lead to this becoming a consistent thing for them to do forever.
I would say the biggest things that I can think of that helped us with our nutrition is learning how to cook, like learning how to cook and learning how to just gather fresh ingredients, not from boxes, and creating meals that we actually really, really like and enjoy and look forward to for ourselves. Because when I think back, I was like, even if we were eating at the house, we were either dependent on restaurants to bring food home or boxes to prepare foods.
Yeah.
And I think we were trying to like adjust our nutrition, but we were still relying on these other things.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we actually started like using just like whole food ingredients, creating meals that we actually really liked, did we like, I think, see like changes in our health, our energy, and enjoy our enjoyment of food.
And I also think there's something about not getting sick so often and
Yeah.
cooking your own food. I don't know if it's because of the immune response or just the fact that there aren't strangers sneezing over your food as they prepare it.
Oh gosh.
But we hardly ever get sick, and I think this is one of the main reasons that we don't. So how do you learn about this stuff? You hire a coach, you read books, you look for trusted sources online, you look for things that are too good to be true, and you do the opposite. You're listening to this podcast, so you already know like people like us and like-minded people that you are hearing say similar things to us are people you should be listening to.
Well, and I think another big piece is to not feel like nutrition has to be boring. It has to be bland, and it has to be horrible, like tasting or whatever. You're not, and it's not going to be full of enjoyment if it's done right. And that's absolutely not the truth. And I think anybody that you look at that has like kind of rerouted their nutrition and feels successful with their nutrition will tell you that same thing, that they enjoy everything that they eat.
Yeah.
And I think that like people who are on the other side of it maybe look at it and say like, not at the food, but at the process, and be like, I am not going to get to enjoy anything I eat anymore.
Yeah,
And that is
it's
totally
true.
not the
True.
case.
I mean, that's just like premeditated self-sabotage in my mind, that you are going into it with the mindset that all the food's going to suck. You're never going to get to eat anything that you like.
You never get to eat out. Like, you never get to, whatever, go out with friends. And that's the whole point of it, is that like you're going to get to do all these things, and you're going to get to enjoy those processes. Like, I remember when you were just talking about we didn't never do 75 hard, but you did like the paleo challenge or something like that. And we went to my friend's 30th birthday, and like you were sitting there at the restaurant like like, I can't eat anything because I'm doing this little challenge.
It was a Mexican restaurant. I'm staring at the basket of chips.
You're just like, I can't enjoy anything here, and that's not what we want. We want you to be able to like enjoy that party and experience with your friends.
Yeah.
Because you're not putting yourself in these temporary hard challenges, and then it's just like off the wall after that.
And if you truly have no clue like what healthy food we're talking about, we wrote a resource called the Grocery and Meal Prep Guide, where we lay out a way to build a grocery list based on these kinds of foods, and then turn those foods into meals, not like recipes to follow, but kind of like a plug and play system for taking these foods and turning them into different meals in different styles and make them taste good. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes too.
All right. The fifth thing we would do different is become a student.
Oh, yes, Denya-san. I think this to me is about not looking at doing your workouts, exercising, eating healthy, all that kind of stuff as a means to an end, because you'll start to resent it. You'll want to give up on it. You'll like look at it as a chore that you have to do. I think it's about shifting into the mindset like, these things are now part of my identity. I'm a student of the game of health and fitness. I'm going to learn about it. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to consume information around it. I'm going to use my free time to dedicate some of it to what I'm saying is the goal, to be healthy. Not looking at it as like this side hustle that you get to when you want to get to it. And like, it sounds kind of cheesy, but truly making it part of your identity. I'm not talking about like becoming obsessed where you annoy all the people in your life. It's just like you dedicate some of your resources, of your thought, your energy to becoming a student of health and fitness, making it part of your identity. Like, because
it's a lifelong journey.
I know. I mean, it sounds super cheesy to talk about, but
it's
like, if you kind of become, I think about our client Seth, who like was the opposite of the health and fitness guy, and now he's like known in his circle as like the workout guy, because like people know this is part of his lifestyle. He prioritizes his training, and it's like part of who he is. Like, people who are obsessed with Harley Davidsons, they don't look at their motorcycle as just a means of transportation. Like, it's part of who they are. It's part of their identity. It's okay. We think people are really judgy when it comes to you being the healthy person or being the fit person. I think we shy away from being that because we're afraid of people's judgment in the comments that they're going to make. People have no problem being known as like, I'm the wine person of the group. Like, everybody comes to me with their wine questions, and I like that. Or everybody knows I'm the handyman. Like, ask me your questions about how to fix your dishwasher or whatever. But for some reason, when it comes to health and fitness, we want to be like, oh no, I'm not the health guy. Like, we shy away from it. But I wish that like back when we first started this, I would have owned it a little bit more and made it a bigger part of my life. Like, because I feel like we have a good balance of that now, and I think we could have got to this place a lot faster having done that.
Yeah. So like, I just thought of a funny example of like kind of like something I'm getting into now that like I wish I would have become a student of before is like skincare.
Oh yeah.
Like I started like I just before it was like the Seinfeld, wash it, dry it, move on. Like, what are you supposed to do with your skin? And never really knew what to use or do. We found these guys on YouTube that are just like so fascinating to watch. And I'm like diving into like skincare now. And it's like one of these things I wish like, man, I could have done that a lot long ago, because it's like a similar position where I had no idea what to do or use. You go to like Target and the aisle is endless, and you're just like, I don't know, I need a face wash, like,
Yeah, I mean, basically, like, and now, we'll open up the YouTube app on the TV, and like, there's one of their new videos. We'll watch it and we learn something. Like, you could do the same thing with your health and fitness. Like, make some of the content that you consume as part of your everyday life.
And you start to enjoy it. It's silly. It's like fitness, or it's skincare, or it's nutrition, or whatever it is. It seems silly, but you
learning on the job.
You start to like geek out on like, oh, I'm like, this is fascinating. Like, I'm so interested to like learn this, and it's really exciting to.
I mean, like, I think about how long we've been RVing. It's not that long. Like, what is it, like, coming up on 3 years this year of just owning an RV? And like, if we had,
now we live in one. Watch out! Don't go down that road.
Be careful down the rabbit hole. But the point is, like, I mean, we're not experts at this by any means, but we know a lot about it now, and we avoid making a lot of mistakes because we watch a lot of content about RVing, and like, we make content about RVing. The same is true with your health and fitness. Like, you can shortcut your learning curve, make it more enjoyable if you consume content that has to do with being in shape and getting fit. All right. That's the 5. Are you ready?
So let me just review them real quick. So we would start with strength. We would become a bodybuilder. We would understand intensity. We would learn the big dogs of nutrition, and we would become a student. All of these things we would hope to do quicker in our fitness journey.
Yep. All right, you ready for the big reveal?
Big reveal. Where are we today? Oh.
I mean, you really can't tell from this view.
It looks like it could be pretty nice.
I mean, it's not terrible.
That's just like a retention pond.
A drainage ditch.
This is an RV park. 99% people are living here. We're a guest. And yeah, it's kind of a weird part of town. Yeah,
we're south of Houston. But we're moving on in a couple days, so we'll be in a different location next week, so make sure you don't miss that episode. All right.
You can't see anything. Oh, there's a cow.
There's a cow out there too. All right, if you are interested in working with Digital Barbell, myself, Blakely, or Haley, I'll put a link to our program options and pricing in the description below, so check that out. All right, have a great day.